Last night we got 6 inches of heavy, wet, snowball packing, snowman building snow. Look at this. Everything is absolutely covered right now. Look at how it is weighing down this bush right here. That is some heavy snow. It's like a winter wonderland, and it is still coming down, and I knew it was coming. So yesterday I set up a tent right here in my backyard so that I could answer a question that a lot of people have and physically show you that your inflatable tent will not collapse under snow if you are actively using it and appropriately maintain it. The first thing I always say when I'm answering this question is you can't just set up your tent in the snow and walk away and expect it to not collapse. And this is exactly what I mean by that. I knew this heavy snow was coming, so I set this up specifically to show you this, and I did absolutely nothing to prevent it. I did not camp in it. There is no stove running in it. There is no rain fly on. I let the snow fall all night long, land on the tent, this heavy, wet, packing, snowman making snow, so that I could show you that if you set up your tent and you leave it alone in the snow without taking any measures to camp in it, heat it, use the rain fly, remove the snow, prevent the snow, maintain your tent, this is what's going to happen. It's not a brick house. It's a tent. This is nothing but a bare bones canvas tent left all alone to survive by itself in cold weather and heavy, wet snow. Now that we've established that, I'm going to clean this tent off, pop it back up, and show you exactly how you prevent this from happening. You see how the snow has accumulated on this giant pine tree here and completely caused it to sag way down. When you leave your tent alone in the snow, the same thing happens. Look at all this snow that has accumulated on the top. Heavy, wet snow, it gets heavier and heavier and eventually pulls the middle down. That's literally like 100 pounds of snow on there right now. These beams are still rock hard, but that snow is heavy. If I let go, it still wants to pull it right back down because I have not cleaned any of it off of there. And I'll show you once again before I do this. There is all the snow that's weighting this thing down. If we step inside and push up, you can see the snow falling off. The tent falls right back into place. Knock off all that snow. It's as easy as that. And if you were actively in your tent camping, you would have a stove going in here keeping it warm. That's going to be melting the snow as it lands on your tent, in addition to the fact that you would be using the rain fly, which would cause the snow to slide right off as it lands on top of your tent. So even though this tent is waterproof and it's not going to let any moisture get in, it is still canvas. So wet, heavy snow is just going to stick to this fabric. The rain fly would allow that snow to just slide right off of there instead of packing on top. And in addition to you inside moving around, shaking the tent, knocking off any snow that's accumulating, and using a heat source like the Caminus wood burning stove, all of those actions together would prevent this. So there's your tent popped back up into place. That literally took about 5 minutes to get all that snow off there and pop it back up. And now you're ready for the rain fly and the wood burning stove to prevent that from happening again. So the very first thing you need to do to prevent this from happening is when you first set up your tent, you need to stake it down appropriately. We already staked it at all 4 corners before we inflated it, but every tent that comes from RBM or Cootie has what is called guy lines. Now guy lines are basically just ropes that allow you to stake down your tent to give the structure more stability. These are already connected to the tent when you take them out of the box. You can see it connects in 2 different areas here, comes together as one line. There's one of those on each of the 4 corners. Some tents even come with them installed at the peak on both the front and the back, but we want to pull those out and stake those down all around the tent. That's going to help to stabilize the frame and hold your tent steady in case of high winds. So now we've got our tent all clear of snow. We've got all 4 guy lines in place, and your tent is appropriately stabilized at your campsite. I've used these tents in winds beyond 50 miles per hour, and they hold still like a rock if you have them appropriately staked down. So the next thing we need to do is get a heat source in here. In this case, we're going to use the Caminus M wood-burning stove. You can see how the skylights on each side of the tent are frozen over. The tent fabric is pretty dry at the moment, but putting the wood stove in there is going to help to heat up the fabric, the frame of the tent, and those skylights on the top. It's going to melt any snow or ice that's on your tent or the skylights, and it's going to heat up the inside of the tent, which is going to heat up the frame, which will cause the air to expand inside the frame and help keep your tent stable. There's a common misconception that if you try to camp in cold weather in an inflatable tent, that cold weather is going to cause the air tubes to collapse. It's the same concept we're talking about here, how you can't set up your tent and then just walk away. If you have no heat source inside your tent, yes, the cold air is going to get to those tubes, cause the air inside to contract, and it's going to weaken that frame. But if you have a heat source, like a wood-burning stove, it's going to keep everything warm inside there, including that frame. The air inside the frame is going to expand, and you're not going to have that problem. You can see that snow and ice better from the inside. And we can just hit it and try to knock it off, but we really need to melt that off. All right, so we have our wood stove going. It's already starting to warm up in here. The snow and ice is already melting on these windows, and they're already starting to feel softer. The clear plastic on the front here, when it's cold outside and that clear plastic is cold, it's very stiff and it's very difficult to pull together to zip. But once that stove has run for a little bit, it's going to soften that up. We're going to be able to zip that like it's nothing. But for now, let's go ahead and step outside. We'll close up the tent. Let it warm up in there. You can see I've got my temperature gauge out here, and it is 33 degrees Fahrenheit right now. Smoke is just rolling out of that stovepipe. I love this picture right here. Now, by the end of this video, we're also going to have the rain fly on there. That's a very important part of this process in keeping the snow off of your tent, because the rain fly is made of a material that lets the snow fall on it and slide right off. Okay, so it's been about 20 minutes now. You can see we are at 32.7 degrees out here. Wow, yes. We are at 61.3 in here. Everything is warm. The fabric, the frame, the ice and snow is all melted off of our skylights, and we are now easily able to zip down the plastic. It is nice and warm in here, and I only put in enough wood in there just to get it warmed up in here, melt that ice and snow, and get everything back to where it should be. Now, this clear plastic panel on the front here is removable, but when you're camping in cold weather, you really want to have that in place because that helps to maintain the heat level inside your tent. These windows on the sides can also be replaced with clear plastic windows that come with this tent. They serve the same purpose as the panel on the front, maintain that heat, give you another window that you can open during rain and snow and let more light in. Same thing with the front panel there. And all these things are instrumental in maintaining your tent and preventing that buildup of snow. Now, our fire is basically just smoldering there, but everything is still hot, so I'm going to let this cool down for a little bit, and we are going to put the rain fly on. And there you go. All done. Rain fly is on. Now, I do have to say this rain fly is actually made for a larger tent. This tent does come with a rain fly that is the perfect size, but this one already had the stove jack ready to roll. This particular tent comes with a stove jack in the tent itself, but not in the rain fly. So you have to install one yourself, which I actually have a video up telling you how to do that, showing you exactly how I put it in this rain fly right here. So there it is, guys. That is the whole setup to survive camping in the snow. We've got the tent staked down exactly how it should be to stabilize the whole setup. We've got the Caminus M wood-burning stove inside. We've got the clear plastic panel in the front here so we can sit inside the warm tent and watch the snow fall. And we have the rain fly. So while that snow falls, it's going to land on that rain fly and slip right off. Two completely different types of material. This is canvas. This is like a nylon. And we got a tiny little bit of snow coming down here. And as you see, as it hits the side, it just rolls right down. 31 degrees out here right now, 69 inside the tent. And that is how you survive winter camping and prevent your tent from collapsing in the snow.